Okay, welcome back. In this video, I want to talk a little bit more about speed settings and how you choose different speeds for your percussion unit when you're actually working on certain areas of the body. So when it comes to these different devices, we see that there's obviously so many different options, and they oftentimes have different options when it comes to speed settings as well. One of my earliest models of percussion, as I kind of mentioned, I feel like a veteran in this area because I've been using percussion for at least 15 years, was the Impact Percussor. And when this guy came out, it has 10 settings on it. So I'm a bit spoiled. When I first started using this kind of work, I had options to a lot of different speeds, and that was kind of the standard. What I did notice over time is that a couple of these different tools came out, namely, for example, the DMS. The DMS only has one setting to it, and it's a fairly aggressive tool because it's heavy, and it's meant for, being able to take a lot of abuse. Athletes working in a clinic, spending a lot of time on it, and of course the machine itself has a lot of weight on it, so it takes some of the pressure off of the therapist. So a lot of different things out here. So the DMS, kind of like, I'd say, a little bit old in the market now because it's expensive, and it has a lot of weight to it, but the challenge is that it only has one setting. Still a great tool though, I use it all the time. But some of these newer kids on the block here, the smaller, more consumer-based models of percussion therapy, some of the earlier models only had a couple of speeds. This one here, the Hypervolt, only has 3. Okay, but now you're going to see that some of these speed settings now, some of these tools have up to 30. So to me, the more options that you have available, the better. So I'm always going to go for something that has a lot of speed options to it, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But all of these different things make a difference and should make a difference when you're looking to purchase your percussion tool if you have not. If you have one, then of course, helping to set the settings. Now, one of the things I always talk about here is that there is no magic setting for anything, no matter what that means, is having the right kind of head on the tool or setting the right kind of speed for every area of the body. And using these tools for 15 years, there's such a wide variety of preferences with clients, especially when it comes to these tools. My most famous thing when I talk about percussion tools and tolerance is one of my clients used to tell me, hey, if I pay you an extra $20 in this session to not use that thing on me, would that be cool? And so he hated percussion therapy. And I've had a lot of people that couldn't tolerate it very well either. So just from sensory processing overload and so forth, it just wasn't comfortable for them. But then I've had other people that want me to use the most aggressive percussion tool that I've got on the area, like on their trap muscle, and just beat it into the ground because it felt amazing to them. So one thing I will say is to be mindful of, I think the certain sign that, number one is it's just too intense. So if you turn something on and in an area it feels like it's just overwhelming to the person or to yourself, then that setting is not going to work. Obviously, on the opposite side of that is being super underwhelming. So most of these tools are not going to go this low, but if you look at the Percussor, and if I go all the way down to like the level 1 on this, like this, okay, it literally is so slow that, and again, most people are so used to the faster settings that this feels bizarre. And it actually feels kind of intense because it's so slow. But I would use that in an area where the nerve receptors are just bombarded with stimuli and I actually want to kind of slow them down. So I might use something like this, okay? But progressively, every speed up that we go, okay, it's altering the percussive waves into the tissue and it's providing a different level of stimulation, okay? So we need to be mindful of that. So what I'm going to say is that certain settings, when they're too fast, okay, on a certain area, will result in them becoming itchy. That is something that is a common phenomenon, especially when we're applying it to the trapezius area or in the neck. So if we leave it on the trap, it feels good for, 30, 45 seconds, but if it's left on for too long, it can start to make the person itchy. So they want to keep scratching the area. And that usually means that the percussion setting is too high, or it's the adapter that you're using, okay? So, but most of the time it's the speed. But changing the adapter can make a difference as well. So I tend to use the moderate speeds on the neck, and I move around a lot. I don't stay in one spot for too long in order to avoid making the nerve receptors a little agitated to the point where you want to scratch them, okay? So I will use some of the moderate speeds in that area. Fast speed settings will work based on how much surface area you are covering. So if you're using hyper speed, I'm using the fastest setting on the DMS, I can get away with this super fast setting if I'm moving around a lot and swirling around the tissue, okay? But when I sit into an area, that's going to affect my speed setting. So if I'm going to stay in an area, a smaller quadrant, I'm going to use that moderate speed setting. If I'm moving around a lot, I'm going to use that high speed setting. And also, if I'm going to fixate on a certain area that feels too sensitive, I'm going to use the slowest setting that I've got, and with the intention of desensitizing that area to that repetitive stimuli, and it's not going to make the person itchy and so forth. So speed settings can vary a whole lot depending on the person and their nerve sensitivity, and we adjust it, right? We can always start high and move around a lot, and then start slowing down the setting in order to kind of reduce the amount of resting muscle tone and sensitivity in an area. Now, on the opposite end of this, one more thing to consider is what you're going to be doing. I just talk a lot because my field of work is about pain. So we're trying to reduce pain, and a lot of times what we're doing is trying to reduce the sensitivity in an area. So I'm oftentimes trying to graduate things downward to reduce that sensitivity and to sedate things. But if you're an athlete or you're looking to use your percussion tool before your workout, then you might absolutely stay with the higher speed settings and faster movement. Okay, the same principles apply with percussion therapy as they do with massage therapy. Sports massage in particular is known for fast movements to try to stimulate the central nervous system getting ready to play. We don't want to have somebody who's about to go perform doing a Swedish massage where we're doing slow glides that are boring, sedating, putting the person to sleep. Okay, that's counterproductive for what they're trying to do. So keep that in mind as you're setting your speed settings on your percussion tool, and you'll get the best results.